In part 2 of his little book, Magic, a Treatise on Esoteric Ethics, Manly P. Hall discusses the source of power in magic. He states that the source of power in the universe comes out of the same source, which he calls the universal logos. That force is one and the same whether it is being called upon by black magicians or white magicians. This universal logos splits off only when it reaches the lower world, where it arranges itself in accordance with vibratory rate. Magicians draw their power from this great stream, which is eternal. The difference between black and white magic is in the way the power is attained and used. Regardless of the way it is attained and utilized, this force originates in divine power. Hall then discusses the notion that the source of the black magician's power is the devil, whom the magician conjures up to do his bidding and sells his soul in exchange. He explains this concept by analyzing the composition of this devil. He notes that most people misunderstand the true nature of this creature, for in fact it is man who has transmuted his own deity into a demon through the perversion of divine energy. Hall begins by stating that throughout history, man has always personified that which he does not truly understand. This led to the creation of an entity called the devil. In reality, the devil is merely an anthropomorphic rendition of an abstract concept, of a natural principle, the product of natural means, and the ultimate of natural perversion. To quote Hall on this issue, "The devil is the spirit of perversion or negation, the created principle of misuse. His reasoning is that nothing created by a true God can be evil. Therefore, evil represents the abuse or misuse of power and interference with the divine plan." This being said, it is possible to transform even the most evil demon or thing into good. If man creates a demon through the process of inversion, he's also capable of returning that to its original state before the inversion. The creation of the devil was simply needed to explain the two poles that represent the polarity of nature. This, according to the great Hermetic principles, is indicative of the law of polarity. Hall states that the two great demons of creation are Satan, Saturn, and Lucifer, Mars. Satan is the inhibitor, the spirit of caution. He destroys action, and man is responsible for what he does not do as much as what he does do. It is just as important to not do the right thing as it is to do the wrong thing. This is the principle of negation. Hall says that the sins of omission are laid at Satan's door. Lucifer, on the other hand, represents the opposite principle, that of the spirit of excess and sense gratification. Lucifer is the light bringer. Man transforms him into what Hall calls the fiery demon of war and hate, and the inspiration of lust and passion. Whereas Satan is utter coldness, Lucifer is blazing heat. Man needs both of these forces. According to Hall, these two are engaged in a perpetual eternal battle of duality. They are not evil, but represent two of the greatest powers in all of creation. Evil, in actuality, is the perversion of force or power. Therefore, it is man who creates demons when he perverts that force. This is the world of the black magician, who manipulates these forces for his own self-aggrandizement. The white magician, in contrast, asks only that the powers be manipulated for the benefit of the divine creation as a whole. Hall cautions that even though we may live our lives according to the tenets of what is right and true, we must nevertheless always guard against the works of the black magician. Many people have not developed the strength necessary to fight off these works simply because they lack the ambition to do so. The powerful black magician sees these individuals as easy marks for attack. Hall describes these powerful magicians this way: individuals who have mastered nature's forces to such a degree that they can stop the heartbeat of a person on the other side of the earth with a mental ray, or burn a 2-inch hole through a 1.5 feet of ebony with astral fire. He says they are dangerous whenever they are met, and the average so-called good person has absolutely no chance of withstanding the blows of black magic. Only fools underestimate this danger. Wise men protect themselves against it. The greatest ally to the work of the black magician is ignorance. When we fail to take proper care of our bodies and our consciousness and do not guard these diligently, we open the centers of our being, and this is how the black forces gain entry and become obsessed by them. Hall cautions that we must establish clearly which path we will walk, that of right or wrong, because to straddle the fence is dangerous. He suggests we join with the brothers of light in the battle for human souls. With that said, however, wherever there is light, there is also shadow. We must learn to discriminate between these two as they operate in our own lives, rather than perseverating upon our past misdeeds, which can pollute our auric field, which in turn allows more demons to attach to us. It is best to instead take constructive action so that our light shines forth brightly. This, Hall suggests, will send the spirits of evil slinking into the corners. In this section of the book, Hall also discusses what he terms the demoniacal power of the ancients. And he says these beings that the ancients talked about reside on other planes and may be described as elementals and nature spirits. Magicians of the past have conjured them up to do their bidding, going all the way back to the time of Atlantis. Black magicians, however, do not work with the etheric elementals, but through the entities of the astral light who dwell in the lower astral plane. The black magician is tied to this plane by his animal nature and his hate, which is the basis of black magic. He is therefore unable to interact with any beings higher than those of this astral world. The entities that exist in this realm are built by the animal excesses of men. Hall describes them as strange creatures, some resembling debased human beings, and others shaped like animals, lizards, snakes, and other reptiles. These entities have no soul and are easily directed by the powerful black magician. Every time a human has a debased or evil thought or emotion, more of these soulless creatures are created. The lower planes of this realm, the astral world, are the three hells discussed by religion. The black magician is a conscious channel for these forces and unleashes them into the world. As they enter into this physical realm, they pass through the body of the black magician who conjures them. For this, he must sell his own soul and will eventually be sucked into the astral hell himself. Why would he desire to conjure these entities? In exchange for the powers these demons will give him over his fellow men and this material world, because the powers these entities possess are practically unlimited. Hall explains that there are two different kinds of black magicians. The first type conjures the demons of the astral plane for purposes of promoting their own desires. These are conscious black magicians because they know what they are doing will cause great harm, and this is in fact what they seek to do. The second type of black magician creates his own demons and then launches them against the world. These individuals may be mostly unconscious of what they are doing, and Hall says they injure themselves greatly by their actions because some never learn their mistake until the demons they have created come back to haunt them. In contrast, the white magician does not seek to harness the powers of the animal world. Instead, he transmutes the beast within himself into higher and finer qualities. He works solely with the powers of the elemental planes, not the astral plane. He seeks to liberate his fellow man rather than dominate and control him. This is because his motive is to follow the path of the immortal light and dedicate himself to it, while the black magician works solely for himself and the satisfaction of his own desires and glory. Hall offers the true student of occult science some valuable advice at the end of section 2 of his book. He notes that the grimoires of the Middle Ages are filled with chants and charms for invoking spirits, and history is filled with stories of black magicians. Nevertheless, he says, we should have nothing to do with these things other than to know of their existence in order that we may protect ourselves from them. This means we should not experiment with them because it is way too dangerous and will lead only to, in his words, untimely graves, and lunatic asylums, or becoming obsessed by them. If the occult student encounters another person and senses the evil within that person, perhaps by a feeling of strange repugnance, he or she should avoid such individuals. This is because the aura of that person is likely permeated by elementals and thought forms, which can be drawn to us by the law of attraction. In other words, it's like an infection that is spread from one person to another. These entities are able to leave their host and attach themselves to you. Hall gives the example of how seances can go wrong when participants carry away dozens of these demon forms that entered their organisms when they made their willpower negative and thus opened the door. Even if a participant is predominantly positively oriented and the elementals are unable to permeate the aura, they can still hang around waiting for a future moment when an opportunity arises to be admitted. What would constitute such an opportunity? Perhaps that person loses their temper or carries out a destructive act. This provides the perfect entryway. Because these entities cannot be seen in the physical world, people do not think about the consequences of allowing for these opportunities to take place. However, Hall cautions the best way to protect this from occurring is to follow the white path. Of utmost importance is to protect the human aura from being damaged and penetrated, because holes in the auric field allow for these entities to rush in and take charge. The work of the white masters who follow the white path is to end the rulership of these demons. This is difficult work because Hall says a large percentage of man's spiritual, intellectual, and physical affairs today are in the hands of the elementals, brainless creatures, and their masters, the black magicians, whose minds are dens of iniquity. Out of this world must come a few, who with hearts and souls undefiled will keep the light burning, that the powers of darkness shall not triumph. In this way, the false dominion of demons will fall, and the light of truth and the true darkness will prevail. In the final segment of this little work on Magic, a Treatise of Esoteric Ethics, Hall discusses the mechanics of magic. See you next time.